What if I told you that two young girls who tragically died in a car accident seemed to come back to life? This is a real life mystery, a case that continues to baffle scientists, skeptics, and believers alike. In this video, we're diving deep into the strange, mind-boggling story of the Pollock twins. This story challenges everything we think we know about life, death, and what happens next. So once you hear this story, it might just change the way you think about reincarnation. In the 1950s in Hexum, England, there was a seemingly ordinary family, John and Florence Pollock, and their daughters Joanna and Jacqueline. The Pollocks were a devoutly Catholic family, and their life was typical of a small English town. But on May 5th in 1957, something devastating happened to this family. 11-year-old Joanna, her younger sister Jacqueline, who was 6, and their 9-year-old friend Anthony were walking to church, something that they normally did, but on this day they were struck and killed by a car. Almost instantly, the two young sisters died, and Anthony died while traveling to the hospital. What makes this situation worse is that this was no accident. It was later discovered that the driver, a local woman who was under the influence, had intentionally hit the 3 children after being forcibly separated from her own children. The woman was later admitted to a psychiatric hospital. This news absolutely devastated the Pollock family. John and Florence were inconsolable, but amidst their grief, John, the girl's father, held a firm belief in reincarnation, a belief that would later take an eerie truth. So, about a year after the accident, Florence became pregnant again. This time she gave birth to twin girls, Gillian and Jennifer. At first, everything seemed normal. The family was enjoying their new twins, they moved to a new state, and they were ready to start a new life. But as the twins grew older, the family began to notice some strange and unusual similarities between the twins and their deceased sisters. So the first strange detail is that Jennifer, one of the twins, was born with birthmarks, which is normal, but in this situation, it's weird because one of the birthmarks was on her waist in the exact same spot where Jacqueline, the older sister, had a scar. The other was on her forehead, exactly where Jacqueline had a noticeable mark from a childhood accident. Now, the parents thought this was just a coincidence, but this was just the beginning. As Gillian and Jennifer grew older, their parents noticed even stranger coincidences. The twins began to ask for toys that had belonged to their deceased sisters, even though they never seen or played with them before. They would describe the toys in complete detail, toys that had been packed away and never shown to the twins. But it doesn't stop there. The twins also began to recognize places they had never been to. When the family went back and visited Hexum, where their older sisters had grown up, the twins seemed to know their way around the town. They even pointed out landmarks their deceased sisters had frequently visited, places Gillian and Jennifer had never visited before. Now, it's one thing to claim kids have good imaginations, but how do you explain this? Here we have 2 sisters who are able to explain things that their deceased sisters experienced without having knowledge of these things beforehand. And if all of that wasn't unsettling enough, the twins also had a deep and inexplicable fear of cars, a fear that seemed to stem from the accident that killed their sisters. When the twins were around moving cars, they would become visibly distressed. They would clutch each other and cry, especially when crossing the street. And on one occasion, the twins even said, "The car is coming to get us," a statement that sent chills down their parents' spines. Could this fear be a subconscious memory of the accident their sisters had experienced, or was it something else? Of course, stories like this always raise eyebrows. Skeptics argue that the twins' behavior could have been influenced by their parents, especially John, who strongly believed in reincarnation. Some psychologists suggest that John and Florence may have unknowingly projected their grief onto the twins, shaping their memories and actions. But the parents insisted that they had never discussed the tragic accident or their deceased daughters with the twins. They wanted to give Gillian and Jennifer a fresh start, free from the shadow of the past. So if it wasn't influence from the parents, what can explain these strange occurrences? As Jennifer and Gillian entered their teenage years, the strange memories and behaviors began to fade, and by the time they were adults, Gillian and Jennifer no longer remembered the details that once baffled their parents. This led some to question whether the strange occurrences were simply childhood fantasies or a coping mechanism for the family's grief. But for others, this fading of memories was yet another sign, a sign that perhaps the twins had fulfilled their reincarnated purposes and moved on. So what do you all think? Is this a case of reincarnation? Evidence that the souls of Joanna and Jacqueline came back to life through their younger sisters? Or is it simply a series of coincidences shaped by grief and disbelief? The case of the Pollock twins remains one of the most mysterious and debated stories in paranormal research. To this day, it stands as an unsolved mystery, leaving both skeptics and believers with more questions than answers. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do stories like this make you question the boundaries between life and death and what may happen next? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on the Pollock twins.